here in this time, there's a lot of, I see, how many times do I have brothers and even women come to me and say, it's just over and over that, well, my spouse is just not walking with God the way they should be. My spouse is not walking with God the way they should be. And, they're very disrespectful to me. There's so much division in the household. And I believe this is very important, especially right before Passover. I'm trying to hit every single thing that may be rooted deep within our hearts or in our minds that, we must sanctify so that, the blood of the Lamb will be on our hearts. It's just making sure that we're preserved and ready for his Passover. It's very important. This is not, Easter and eat your Easter ham. This is not what he's the Passover lamb, not the Passover ham. So we got to make sure that we're ready. And men and women, there's something that I see very often and frequently. There's a lot of times men or a woman that is married, they cannot submit to their spouse. Why? Because they're still clinging to their parents. So if you go way back here, and the problem is a lot of times there's a narcissistic parent that is rolling over and somehow interfering, and the people don't even recognize it. I've talked to men and women, and they don't even recognize it. It's like, look, the problem is your wife is still talking to their parents that are getting in between y'all's relationship because their parents don't like you. And likewise, I've talked to women the same way, where the men's like mother-in-law or father-in-law is getting in between their marriage. Most of the time, it's mother-in-laws. I'll just say it. So in Genesis 2, it says, this is why a man leaves his mother and his father and clings to his wife. Genesis 2:24. And they become one flesh. Now, we are to leave not be afraid to leave. I don't care how far. There's people that can go overseas, is completely leave their families. Then there's people that can't even leave a couple miles from their families. There's people that are still remaining in their cities because, oh, my whole family's here, so I must honor and respect them. That's not honoring and respecting them when they're getting in between you and your marriage. Sorry. But going over to your in-laws' house or your family's house every weekend, as I've seen in a lot of these wealthier communities where, you have country clubs and lots of golf courses and things like that, it's wealthier. You got these big non-denominational churches, so they go over to their family's house to have cookouts, seems like every weekend. Got to hang out with my family. But you don't realize your family's interfering with you and your spouse's marriage. And if you don't cut that off, it's gonna end in recklessness. And you wonder why there's fights and arguments in between you and your marriage, because somebody can't cut it off with their mommy and daddy. So me and my mom and dad are really close. Yeah, I met a girl the other day. She was afraid to even, of her parents dying. She's afraid to even leave. She wants to move back because she misses her parents so much. I get it. Your parents, honor them, respect them. But if they're getting in between you and your spouses and becoming one union, that's the problem. And I know, even what Maria's saying, yes, it's not just all of us, I'm pretty sure, has had this issue one way or another. And the thing is, you don't share emotionally and deep, intimate things that's supposed to be between you and your spouse with your mother-in-law, your father-in-law, your mom and dad. It just doesn't do that. When you become one, you become one. You cut it off. Stop trying to share everything. I don't care if your mommy or daddy is trying to get in your life and try to know every single thing about you. Cut it off. Because I'm going to tell you what's more problem that arises. I see women fighting with their husbands. And it's coming to screaming matches, and men fighting with their wives, screaming matches, fighting, arguing. I'm like, how is this so? It's like they're cursing at each other, yelling at the top of their lungs. There's doors being slammed. This is not righteous, guys. You're not walking with God, whether you claim to or not. Your pastor may not speak of these things because he might be just as dead as you are. I don't know. But I want to encourage you. Women, please. What example are you showing your children when they see you yelling at your husband? Husbands, what example are you showing your wives when you're yelling at your spouses and acting like you have all this authority over them? And women, if you're trying to rule over your husbands and be authority over them, that's not good. It's going to be all out of balance. It must be respect. Husbands and wives must respect themselves. Cherish one another. You should not be arguing and fighting and yelling. There may be times you may have disagreements, but should never come into a yelling match. Period. It should never be at the top of your lungs and yelling and screaming. And if you have your spouse saying, why are you yelling at me? Well, it's likely your tone or how you're yelling. It might be the way you're arguing. Take time. Communication is important. How many times have I told women and men, go to counseling? Well, my spouse just won't. Well, maybe you should. If your spouse won't, you should. Then they won't. Then it shows me that you're the problem too. If you won't go get Christian counseling or something to help you, you are the problem too. Because both of you should be going together, so it shows me that there's two people that are in the wrong. And I can always figure out what is wrong because mommy and daddy are still in the midst of it. In-laws are still in the midst of it. Cut it off. Maybe if you guys would become closer if you actually moved and got away from your parents. But no, you won't move because you find security and comfort in those parents. This is a big problem in the Christian church today. They cannot leave their parents. How is it so hard? My wife and me, we can go anywhere. We're not afraid to leave our parents. Not at all. Exactly. It's something I see, Amanda, and I see it with even men and women. It's one is willing, the other is not. And it could be that one is still clinging to their parents, the other is not. It's not hard. It's not hard. Like I can literally, it's not disrespecting my mother or father if they were trying to get in between my marriage, and I block their number. It's not disrespectful. If they won't shut up and respect and honor and cherish our wishes, our desires, it's, you have to put that boundary there. You can't, it's no longer, you're not marrying people's parents, and no matter what people think of that today, you're marrying a spouse. And I'm sorry, but many parents today are not following the ways of God. You're to honor and respect your parents, yes. But guess what the parents are supposed to do? Honor and respect God and keep his commandments, which they're not doing today in many households. So how can you sit there and say, oh, honor and respect when they're walking in sin or, materialism and love of money or immorality? It's something that is not following God. If they're a Catholic, if they follow a different religion, how can you really honor them and in that aspect when you're supposed to become one with God and your spouses? Does that make sense? And I'm going to go here really quick. Titus 2, he says, speak things that are fitting for sound instruction. Older men are to be clear-minded, dignified, self-controlled, sound in faith, love, and patience. Likewise, older women are to be sanctified in demeanor, not backbiting or enslaved to too much wine. Let them be teachers of what is good, so that they may train the young to love their husbands. Look at this, women. You have a very important role. You have a very important role. Don't let anybody tell you, staying home with my kids, I'm not doing enough. Yes, you are. You have a very important role to raise those children. And look, he says, so that they may be trained young women to love their husbands, love their children, so be self-controlled, pure, managing their household, kind, submitted to their own husbands, so that God's word may not be dishonored. Look, so that it won't be dishonored. They'll honor God. What is honoring God? Your parents that honor God will honor you in your marriage. And likewise, you'll do the same to your spouses. He says right here, likewise, urge the younger men to be self-controlled in all things, showing yourself to be an example of good deeds, integrity and instruction, dignity, sound speech beyond criticism, so an opponent may be put to shame, having nothing bad to say about us. And look, we are to love our spouses. And there's another one. Often I see in 1 Peter 2, I see a lot of, 1 Peter 3, there's a lot of people that take this out of context. Men will try to rule over their wives with a sense of ownership. Oh, she's a slave to me. She's not your slave, dummy. I'm going to call you that because there's men in the Hebrew roots that need to hear this, that are coming to Torah and they think, they try to rule in such a mighty power over their wives rather than respecting them. And women, you must submit to your husband too. Stop trying to rule over authority of them, trying to control your whole household. You're taking it all out of balance. And I'm sorry, but that's what you're seeing on TV. You turn off your TV, you're going to change. You stop following your friends that have no godly wisdom or knowledge And you're going to see that you're going to start to walk according to God's way in the Spirit rather than what your friends think you should do. Stop going to worldly friends, women and men. Stop going to worldly friends that are going to only give you wisdom of the world that's going to lead you straight to more apostasy. That's going to make you mistreat your husband, your wife more. You're not to be friends with people that are worldly, that are not keeping the commandments of God. I don't care if they go to church. You're only keep friends that are following God. I don't care. I'm not going to take the wisdom of a man or a woman that is sitting here trying to that's walking with the world, not obeying God's laws, and trying to tell me what is wisdom and what is not. They're going to be a bunch of dummies. Foolish. You might as well go take knowledge from a witch. You have better hope for that. And I see much division in a home when a wife wants to go and talk to all their girlfriends. Talk to their girlfriends that don't even love God. You know, and next thing you know, they're plastering on makeup and changing their clothes, or their boobs popping out in the tightest pants where their vagina's showing and butt crack is popping out. And why? Because you're walking with worldly friends. Men, likewise, if you're going to men that are just love their sports, love their cars, love their houses, love their jobs and money, and you're trying to get wisdom about your wife, you're not going to get any wisdom. It's going to be worldly. So be careful. The only wisdom you can get is those that obey God's laws. Otherwise, it's going to be wisdom that's going to lead you astray, and it's going to damage you for God's kingdom. We need a God-fearing counselor. And I'm not saying all Christian counselors are good. I'm not even saying that. But I find that the majority are pretty decent. They can at least point you in a good direction. And here's the problem, women and men. The reason you're afraid, you might fight with your spouse saying, oh, there's no problem with my husband or my mom and dad. There's no problem. Why? Because they're narcissistic. They have a hold on you. And you're afraid to admit that my family is messed up. And because my family's messed up, I'm messed up. Once you admit that I'm messed up and my parents are messed up, then you'll actually become to repentance. Watch how different your marriage will start to turn. Look how different your marriage will start to live. It's going to be such a joy and peace. But you can't do it when you're still clinging to your parents. You can't. You can't do it when you're trying to cling to your family in your cities and their towns. Well, my whole family's here. Their whole family's here. It doesn't matter. I don't have a single family member here in Colorado. At least I don't know of. Except my wife and kids. That's the way it should be. Because today it's not like Israel where your parents and their parents actually kept the law of God. Today we don't have that. And God said in the end days it would be like that. He would cause division in the household. Mothers against daughters, and sons against fathers. Mothers-in-laws against daughter-in-laws. This is the way it would be. Son-in-laws against mother-in-laws. This is the way. He said, because of my name, I would cause division. You must separate from those. The division is anything that's causing you lawlessness or taking you away from the grace and truth of God. If they're bringing you away from the marriage, then that's not of God. If anybody's encouraging divorce, they're not of God. But the problem is, if your spouse is over here committing adultery, if they're abusing you, they're hitting you, they're punching you, that's not something you should be in. And I'm going to tell you to leave. There was once a time that people was like, where does that say in the Bible? First of all, God says not to abuse your animals. So it's the same thing. Don't abuse your wives. Don't abuse your husbands. Women, there's abusers out there that hit their husbands. And likewise, there's husbands that hit their wives. You're not a Torah observant. You're not going to have the grace of God. Your prayers will not be heard. And guess what you'll do? You're living in the danger of the pits of hell. It's clear. If you have an anger problem, you need to go get counseling. This is a perfect time to do it. You need to get counseling because you don't know how to control your anger, and you just learned exactly what your mommy and daddy used to do. One or the other did it. Well, so now you're realizing how much messed up your parents probably are. First of all, if your parents drank, smoked, looked at porn, loved sports, they did these things, they had an issue. It's time to not walk in their path so that you may be sanctified in the Word of God. Because otherwise, you're going to fall in the same footsteps. That's why it gets passed down to generation to generation, but you have a power to change it. If your mom or dad hit each other, Most likely you will. You say, no, not me. Well, don't be so prideful. It gets passed down. And, you must go to counseling in order to understand how to control that anger and deal with the things from the root in your past. It's going to be uncomfortable. But guess what the churches are doing? They're giving you emotionalism, feel good, the mask. It's a Band-Aid to cover up what really needs to be removed in your heart. That weed that is growing dead seeds and bad fruit in your heart and in your mind needs to be removed. It needs to be uprooted. It's going to be painful because it's going to rip out other good memories along with bad memories within you. It's going to make you relive the past. But you have to go to the root in order to die so that you will have a power to walk out what the future that God has for you. If you're going to truly love your spouse and love, your kids, you're going to have to die to yourself so that you may live according to the commandments of God. That's why the people today say, what commandments do I need to follow? Why? Because you don't love the commandments of God and you don't have the Holy Spirit. If you did, you would be repentant. And if you really were humble and surrendered, you'd be like, oh, well, I'm going to go fix myself. I messed up. But instead, you refuse to admit that you're messed up because you go to a church, repeated a prayer, your pastor tells you you're saved by grace. Meanwhile, you refuse to change anymore because you're already sanctified and cleansed and glorified, right? You're not glorified yet. I still feel pinched. This hurts. We need counseling. There's even a good girl that's with our ministry. She's one. And guys, you have to understand that it's very helpful for people. And I met a good counselor even out here that works with one of the women's clinics. And this guy he's good. He's really good. He's a Christian guy. And he'll do many sessions for free because he wants to help people. The people today just want to make tons of money, get rich off of people. And that's not really the way. Yes, we all have to make a living, right? But that's the thing is we should love one another. Look at here. Shalom, Maria. Look, all of us have died to some things. My parents weren't perfect. I'm still not perfect, guys. So that's the thing. We have to admit that. If you say, but my parents, I see a lot of women today, guys, that try to portray the perfect marriage. They try to portray a perfect family. They're always taking family pictures. They're always taking pictures in front of pumpkins every holiday. Christmas tree every Christmas, Easter in front of Easter bunny and baskets. Women, I'm speaking to some of you. Your most professional looking pictures. You have to dress your kids up and make them look so nice. You make everything look so good on the surface, but guess what? I can see right through it. And anybody that is walking with God can see that your marriage is not that great, is it? Stop trying to portray a perfect image because your family is not really that perfect as you think they are. And when people try to portray a perfect family, I'll admit, my parents certainly weren't. I've already admitted their mess ups, their faults. But that's why I made sure I was going to walk in their direction. I'm not afraid to admit it, guys. You fall away from Torah, it's going to mess up the kids. We got to think about our generations, not only ourselves, but our generations that are coming after us, our seeds. And how are they going to impact the world? We got to train them up and walk it out. We can't just take them to a church and take really neat pictures to make it look like we're so godly, as most non-denominational churches do, that sit there with the Starbucks coffee and their nice clothes, and they go back to their Mercedes-Benz or their BMW, and next thing you know, they're living, their nice Escalade, and they're going back to their homes looking like a nice lifestyle. That's why you go to these non-denominational churches, because it comforts you. It makes you feel like everybody else is good. It's like a country club, a gathering, a social gathering. It's like, wow, yeah, I'm good. Because look at everybody else. Everybody in my neighborhood is going to this church too. They put the bumper stickers on the back of their cars of their church. Yes, I know exactly what I'm talking about. Your life is not perfect. It's more sinful than you know. And I bet you your husbands love money and watch sports, don't they? And I bet you love materialisms and tons of makeup, don't you? You love lavish clothes and the nicest cars, don't you? Uh-oh, I'm making someone comfortable. I'm trying to bring you to freedom, guys. You want a good marriage? You want to love your kids? You want to make sure your kids are going to be okay? You say, I love my kids. But do you? how can you love your kids when you're not submitting to your spouse and you can't disconnect it from your family? And you're trying to portray this perfect lifestyle. You won't seek any help because you're afraid of what somebody's going to think. You're afraid to get help because you don't want anybody to think this thing about you. They don't want that to be removed and that nakedness to be revealed. But you're naked before all God. It's there. Do you want him to cleanse you and help your marriage and help you or not? Here we go. Likewise, wives, be submitted in 1 Peter 3 to your own husbands, so that even if someone do not obey the message, by the wise conduct, without a word, they may be won over. Look at here. Wives, if your husbands, I know some of you try to message me and you're trying to get a husband figure. I'm not it. I'm not going to sit here. I got a wife to tend to, and I can't be your husband, okay? I have one wife, and that's my wife. And okay, I can lead you in the right way, but I can't be your emotional, shoulder. I can't do that. Husbands, you aren't to do that with any women either. It's not the way to be. You got to work out with your spouse. Maybe if you put more time in your spouse, it would work out. Don't just say, well, my husband won't do it. Well, maybe if they see your conduct rather than you trying to say, you need to read your Bible more. You see what I'm saying? He says to be gentle, kind. When you're just going in and watching the sports with them, that's not exactly showing them the way of God. They may show you're gentle and your love. When you're trying to domineer and show authority over your husband, guess what he's going to do more is rebel. Likewise, husbands, don't do that to your wives. Well, why are you spending so much time, watching these worldly movies and stuff? Well, maybe if you would be more of a leader and more loving and gentle, she may come to actually want to know the way of God. I'm speaking to somebody right now, a few of you. Don't let your beauty be external, braiding the hair and wearing gold jewelry and fine clothes. Now, guys, I'm not saying this as, it's bad to wear jewelry. It's bad to wear these. I'm not saying that. Or wear makeup. I'm not saying that, guys. What I'm saying is, ladies, I see some of you in church. I've gone to churches. The same ones, you have the bumper sticker of your church on the back of your soccer mom van or your SUV. I get it, yeah. And you men that sit there with their slick back hair that sit in an office job and you make it look like, yeah, my job is perfect. Having barbecues with the boys, having sports outings and things like that, right? I know exactly these country club style dead cemetery churches. Look, you dress up in these ways, but the thing is, you take more pride in your clothes and how your hair is done and the jewelry that you wear, but you are not humble and loving to anybody under you. I don't see these people going and cry with the poor. They're going to judge those that don't have nice clothing or live or have a house that's smaller than theirs, or that don't have a job. They're going to judge the janitor. Meanwhile, they're sitting in an office job. Am I right? Women? Because you're going to judge somebody because they don't go to this type of school, or your kids don't go to this type of school or this type of church, or they're not in this type of activities. You judge those. Oh, well, your sons are in soccer. Well, guess what mine are in? Ballet and gymnastics. Yeah, I know you women. And you hide yourself behind these nice clothing and this jewelry. Men, you do the same in your nice clothes and your slick back hair. I'm speaking to some of you because this is in the church, and now some of you are not going to listen to me. But if you do, you're going to be free. And your marriages are going to be more greater than it's ever been. So instead, let it be in the hidden person of the heart, with unfading beauty of a gentle and quiet spirit. Look at that. Which is in God's sight is very precious. You're welcome, sis. This is so important. You guys, this will be freedom to some who hear this. For this is the way to holy women who put their hope in God used to beautify themselves long ago. Long ago. being submitted to their own husbands, just as Sarah obeyed Abraham, calling him Lord. Wow, look at that. What, you mean I gotta call my husband Lord? Ladies, if you treat your husband with such respect, and men likewise, if you do the same with your wives, watch what's gonna happen. And today people say, psh, it's whipped. It ain't whipped. It's love. Being submitted to their own husbands, just as Sarah obeyed husband, calling him Lord. You have become her daughters by doing what is good and not fearing intimidation. In the same way, husbands, live with your wives in an understanding way. Understand your wives. Listen to them. Be slow to speak. This takes work, guys. It only can come from the sanctification of the Spirit, guys. That's it. Though they are weaker partners, honor them as equal heirs of the grace of life. Husbands, you got some work to do. In this way, your prayers will not be hindered. And I'll tell you, men, if you wonder why your prayers are hindered, why you don't have a power, it's because you're not respecting and cherishing your wives the way you should be. Remember, a wives came from the man's hip. Why did it come from the ribs? Why did it come from the ribs? Because they're being close to them, cherished, respected, honored. You're to become one. You're not the domineer. Notice it doesn't say, oh, he took a bone from the foot, so to be treaded on. You're not to tread all over your wives. Disrespect them. Make them belittle them. Make them feel like they're under you. And wives, likewise, you're not the head. So suddenly you're to become closer with your spouse, not domineering with the head and kicking and punching your spouse as if you have rulership and leadership over them and authority. I know that's what they're teaching in all the shows today in the movies. This feminist agenda. It's even in the children's shows. You have like the movie Frozen. It's feminism. They're teaching your daughters to be feminist. Everything you've seen today is feminism. The women are stronger than the men. They're leaders over the men. Was it the Hunger Games? The women are more stronger than the men. They saved the men. This is what they're wanting to do. And people see Queen Esther and they use that as a role model for feminism. First of all, she was very submissive, knowing that she could die if she went before the king. But because many people were going to die, she went before him in honor and respect. And she got on her hands and knees and said, have mercy on me. But there's something I have to say. That was courage. She wasn't domineering over that man. Women, no woman in the Bible domineered. And I don't care if you see, there were some prophetesses in the Bible, but they never domineered. Never. If you read the word right, you're going to see. This is very important. I just want you all to know, be gentle with your spouses. Be gentle with your husbands and wives. Likewise, do not provoke your children. What does that mean? Men, I see so many of you like, okay, there's two ways. There's men and women that would be like, well, they let their kids do whatever they want. Then there's others that will be like, well, you need to sit here right now. You're going to read all the Torah with me, or else otherwise I'm going to beat your butt. No, that's not right. That's provoking your children. Let your children know the love of God. Show them. If they see the conduct in you and the husbands and wives, they're going to listen to you. But they see you yelling at your spouse, mistreating them, guess what they're going to do? Well, this isn't what the Bible says. They ain't going to listen to you. Why do you think your children are going to honor and respect you when they don't even see you doing it, your spouses? Your church isn't teaching you honor and respect. They're teaching you to bow down to a pastor that is dead, that loves the same things you do: money, riches, success, glory, fame. They have a desire in life. And that's why people go to their church, because it's easy. They slap that bumper sticker on the back and they're like, wow, look where I go. It's a social club. Just as people put on their resume and they boast about the companies they work for. Their company's dead. Who cares about the company you work for? Oh yeah, I work for Google and Microsoft. I don't give a crap. I don't care if you work for them or you worked at, as a lawn care service, you mowing grass. I don't really care. I don't care if you're a janitor picking up trash. People boast about everything. But here's the thing, guys. Love your spouses. If they see the conduct in you, guess what? It's going to give glory to God. Your spouse is going to pull away when they see you, trying to, they see you walking in a legalistic way according to God's commandments. If they see you speaking a word that is not honoring and respecting them, guess what they're going to see? They're not going to honor and respect you. They're going to actually pull away from God. By your conduct, even if they don't receive the word of God and obey his commandments, by your conduct, you may lead them in the way. And I like I said, I often see women that are domineering over their husbands. And it's a bad thing to do. Bad thing to do. Like I said, it gets all out of whack. And there's women that are being more of the breadwinners in the households. And they take more pride. Oh, I don't need a man. I don't need a man. That's what they do all the time. You don't need a man, so you can do everything yourself. If that's your mom's, that's why you've been raised. Slap your parents for me. I'm just kidding. No, don't slap. Don't do that. But you hear what I'm saying. I'm just joking. Don't slap your parents. But it's not right. It's not good conduct. It's not good wisdom. So I just want to encourage you. Please, if you want your relationship to be changed, you want the love of God in your relationship in such a pureness and peace and joy, you're going to have to give up a lot. You're going to have to give up a lot. I'm sorry, guys, ladies, men, if you find comfort in that church, the ones where they put bumper stickers on the back of their cars, and it's a social gathering with the flashing lights and the cool stage. A lot of times they have Starbucks coffee in their churches. I'm going to tell you, you're not going to find what you're looking for. You're not going to find it. And I'm sorry your parents weren't the best as you thought they were. And it may feel like belittling. You feel bad about yourself because wow, I love my parents. Yeah, many do, but you don't realize how much they love money either. And you don't realize how much they've actually shown you. Oh, you might have grown up Christian, right? Well, your parents may have not shown you the great conduct because guess what? They follow the same Christian churches that are here flagrantly all across America and across the world. Because they didn't obey the law of God. Was the law of God? It's spiritual. But they just listen to a dead pastor that you just found another church you find that comfort in. Man. I'm telling you, ladies and men, I have to speak this because it's coming Passover time. And we're to become one flesh with each other just as, our husbands and wives, just as we are with God. And everybody has things to work out. We all, mess up at times. But there's times you're going to go to your spouse and be like, I'm sorry. But, you might have said something you might not should have. We're flesh. But guys, you're going to have to learn to forgive. There's something that, my wife have always, lived. And that's, don't let the sun go down in anger. And that's wisdom in the Bible. You don't let the sun go down. There's times you may have a disagreement about something. It's going to happen no matter what. But it should not be a constant disagreement. Like I see people fighting week after week, month after month. How are you fighting that much? It's because you guys are submitting to one another. You aren't cutting it off from your parents and clinging to your spouses. You're trying to hold on to your life. And I'll say, there's even a man that wanted to follow in God's traditions, his holy ways. And there's a woman that got so mad at me because I was pulling her away from her parents, and all her good memories were on those parents. That's why she's holding on to her traditions. And the same ones that go to every single week, they have to go every single week to go hang out with their parents. I see many of you today doing the same thing. But guess what? You're going to fall away. There's not going to be any peace. It's going to mean giving up your life. You're going to wrestle against God until you do give it up. You're going to choose life, you're going to choose death. If you want the peace, then do it. If you want that emotional, just get a drug, get you by, and that's why you got to go hang out with your parents all the time and go to that feel-good church, it's not going to heal you. It's taking a Band-Aid, going to the store, buying a Band-Aid on a cut, and just letting it not really heal, because there's still a scar deep inside. You want God to heal you, it's going to have to get deep down in there and heal from the bottom up. So, I just want to encourage you guys about this, because I know there's a lot of people that just, I don't know, they don't really have parents to lead. They weren't really given this counsel, there's this wisdom. There's not a lot of pastors that even speak about it. They're just as bad as their parents are. And most of the time, most of these pastors are putting the authority from their mommies and daddies anyway, on a silver platter. So they don't even know what it really means to actually follow God and submit and obey his commandments. That's why they speak to you a nice message. Again, I love you all. And I want to speak this message. And please, take some time to search yourself. So if you don't, it can come to ruin later on in life. Either your husband's going to get sick of your crap, or your wife is going to get sick of your crap. And guess what the devil will be doing once your in-laws or your mommy or daddy has invaded your marriage? The demons inside of them will be laughing. Ha ha ha, I look at this. Yeah, cut it off. Cut it off. If your mommy and daddy is not obeying the commandments of God, well, it's best that you separate. If you can't move, because you're afraid to cut it off with your mommy and daddy, I suggest you start seeking God's faith and not that church. I don't care. My mommy and daddy goes to this church. I don't care. They don't go to that church. You serve God. You don't serve a pagan. So, anyways, guys, that's what I'm saying. Respect your husbands, respect your wives. I repeat myself over and over again. But there's people that's why, domestic violence is so high during this time, because people don't even love each other. They take, this is the thing I see with a lot of men, even women. They keep themselves so preoccupied in work, sports, video games, money, more sports, and more sports, more working, because they don't want to face the truth of reality. And that's why you got husbands and wives butting heads and fighting. They're clunking heads all the time, butting heads, because they don't want to face the truth. Guess what your parents probably did? The same thing. You just chip off the old block. Stop defending your parents and defend God. Stop defending how your parents raised you and cut it off from them, and get some help from a counselor. It's those who are wise, those who are humble will seek a counselor, knowing that I do need help. And then there's those that have spirit pride that'll be like, well, God can do the work in me. Okay, you keep doing that without going to counseling. I mean, how are you going to know what is right way when you don't even know morally what is right and wrong? You might know it in the Bible, but it has to be a change. You have to know deep inside what is causing you to act on emotions. What is causing you to act on these feelings? You got to recognize the emotions. You got to recognize the anger. You have to understand what feelings are connected to what. You have to understand what feelings and emotions, when it's going to be a flood of good and bad. It's going to be hard. It's going to be tough. It's not going to be easy, because you're going to have a flood of good and bad memories popping up with mixed emotions, flooding your whole entire body. It's going to be mixed with anger, sadness, pain, grief, hatred, envy, strife, happiness. good feelings, all these things are going to creep in. But if you go to counseling, deal with yourself, then your spouse may end up going. Even if they don't, you aren't doing it for your spouse. You're doing it for God and yourself. You're doing it for your children so that, you may be changed. If you hear these words, what I'm saying, how many times I've told people to go to counseling? Well, my wife won't go. My husband, it doesn't matter. You go. And if you say, well, they need to go too. No, you need to go. Don't worry about them. Worry about you. Stop blaming them. My spouse this, my spouse that. This, okay, worry about you. And when you start to realize what is right and wrong, you're going to realize, man, my parents are messed up. I'm messed up. I need help. It takes humility. It takes getting rid of that pride. Exactly. They don't deny Yeshua by their mouth, it's by their actions. And, and there's people that keep having problems with their spouses over and over and over again that keep coming to me. I wish my husband would step up. I wish my wife would follow God. Well, maybe you should wish that you were actually doing it. How are you treating them? Stop being prideful. Are you domineering over your spouse? It's pride. And let me tell you something, women. There's some people out there and even men that have jealousy. They might be jealous because why does God talk to them more than me? It seems like God loves them, my husband or my wife, more than me. Well, the problem is you have a submission problem to God and not, even your spouse. Guess what you're teaching your children? The ways of the devil. But no, I teach them God's ways. Read the Bible to them. I homeschool. It doesn't matter. Most of you homeschool moms go to a pagan church that's dead. The same ones with the bumper sticker on the back. The nice clothes, the country club style housing and churches. You probably live right next to a golf course. Am I right? Ladies, I'm speaking to you. Men, I'm speaking to you. You boast about your job. You boast about your money. Probably go hang out with the boys on the golf courses. Am I right? Hang out with the boys, barbecuing, watching football. Man, ladies, men, we have to do better. If you have jealousy in your heart, you're not going to find the grace of God. If you have pride in your heart, you're not going to find the grace of God. If you want to play the blame game, saying my husband's wrong, my wife is wrong, you need to stop. Admit that you have problems, and once you actually get the help that you need, you finally surrender, you're going to realize your spouse is probably going to see the conduct and they're going to want to be like, wow, you're going to start to see a change. It starts with you. I see the world blaming everybody else, but they don't live and walk. They just talk the talk. They talk the talk. That's why they go to the churches. But they don't walk the walk. That's why they don't have faith outside the churches. Because they say, oh, I want to bring my husband to church or my wife to church because they need it. Oh, first of all, you need it. This ain't going to get the donations. This ain't going to get the donations, guys. This ain't going to fill the pews and the seats. First of all, if you have to say, my spouse needs to go to church. First of all, you don't need a church in order to have a good marriage. You want a good marriage? Get out of synagogues and the churches and actually worship God. Worship and praise is not in the church. So stop worshiping and praising with a sweet little sensual music. That's like, having sex with your ears, because it's the same thing. It's raping your ears from the true praise and worship of God. Make people feel like this is praise and worship. No, it's not. If you want your spouse to follow the ways of God, it's going to start with you. You go to counseling. You surrender to God. You obey His commandments. Stop saying what commandments. Stop saying how much sports can I watch, how much TV. The only reason you're doing that because you don't want to think about stuff. The only thing you want the pleasure is because you don't want to think about the pain. But if you really want the peace and the joy where you don't need the drug like heroin in the churches, are snorting cocaine in the churches to give you that big rush. You know, you're going to actually see that if you follow the ways of God, you love his ways, you're going to have that peace and joy. You surrender. Exactly. If one cannot fully submit to God, how can they submit to their spouses? And I find many that are lukewarm, many spouses that are just, they want to go to the lukewarm churches. They want to go to the lukewarm churches. And their spouse wants to follow the ways of God. Well, it takes two to tango, guys. It takes two to dance. And honestly, it's going to come down. Some of you are going to a church to think that you can find the healing, that you're going to find a way to heal your marriage, but you're seeking something physical rather than the spiritual things of God. If you're seeking God, he's going to heal your marriage. Whether your spouse chooses to or not, he's going to heal you. It might not completely heal your marriage because they might not want to submit. But if they see you going to get counseling, they see you obeying the ways of God in love and truth, they're walking in grace rather than legalism, you're going to see such a way. Your conduct, guys. Your conduct. I'll say that over and over again. And we got to stop playing the blame game. Don't we see it all the time, guys? All the time. The divorce happens and they're blaming one another in the court. Wow, you guys were once loving each other. Next thing you know, you're trying to go for blood, trying to take all the money you can get from them. And this is not the way of God. Yeah, we're supposed to give, if you're unhappy with your spouse, you're supposed to, biblically in the Torah, you're supposed to give restitution to your spouse so that they can live. But today, what we're doing is wives taking advantage of that, and they're going to get child support and alimony, everything they can get, and just stripping the husbands clear. I'm going to show him. Yeah, you need to show yourself. You're sitting here living on child support and alimony, women. You're exactly the problem that is in society today. They say you're going to go to another church and get mad at me. It's the same thing. That's why you guys are domineering and trying to get money. Stop. You're exactly the reason for the divorce. Well, my husband this, my husband that. Maybe you should forgive. And me, take a responsibility for that, for yourself. Take responsibility that your divorce happened as a result, not only them, but you. Stop blaming them. Now, I get it. There's some people out there, guys, where, there's women out there that I've heard some terrible things. Now, heart goes out. And again, that were being beat physically beat, and came home and seen their spouse having sex with somebody else, their man, their husbands. My heart goes out for you. But you don't have to stay in that marriage, and I'm not telling you to ever do that. Please, don't stay in an abusive relationship that's physically abusive. Don't do that. But in the same sense, I see women today, well, my husband didn't beat me, but he was emotionally abusive. Emotionally abusive. Oh, man. They're mentally abusive. Okay, ladies, you're probably a problem. You have a submission problem. I'm going to say that, whether they are or not. If they're not hitting you, there's people that try to use that as an excuse. I can divorce my spouse. Maybe they need help. Sure, I'm not denying that fact. Maybe their emotional abuse is not right. Mental abuse is not right. Absolutely not. It's bad. It's a terrible thing. But women will use that as an excuse all the time. Meanwhile, they're actually the ones guilty of doing the same thing. They're actually the same ones doing the same thing to their spouse. But again, guys, I'll stop right there. I don't know if they're sharing a lot because I see a lot of issues. I see a lot that needs to be changed. It starts with the person that you look at in the mirror. But the problem is people look in the mirror and forget who they are. That's what James says. They don't even know the God they serve because it's not truly convicting and changing them. Walking in the flesh rather than the spirit. I know a lot of us didn't know what a healthy marriage is. I'm very mindful of that. I'm very mindful and sensitive to that fact. But we cannot use that as an excuse to continue in that way. And I see people these days that I got divorced. I didn't have a good marriage. Okay, but you're still having that mentality and using that as an excuse. You're still blaming your parents rather than yourself. You say, well, my parents didn't show me the way. I didn't have a daddy there or a mother there. I see people all the time doing that. Guys, my dad wasn't there in half of my life. I legally couldn't see him. But how did I learn the way? Again, guys, I'm one that said, I'm first, I admit it, I'm not going to tell you I'm not a hypocrite. I went to counseling. I, sought the ways of God. I knew what was right. You know the way. It's right here, guys. Stop using it as an excuse. I had one wife. I have one wife. That's it. And I have people in the people in the pulpits today having multiple wives. You can't lead a congregation with multiple wives. I'm sorry. The moment you get a divorce, that's it. You shouldn't be leading a congregation or a church, period. I'm not saying everything was perfect. I was perfect. Absolutely not. I had a lot of things that needed to change, but I did. And there's still things that's changing today. I'm not saying I'm perfect, guys, but, I'm not going to sit here and be a hypocrite if I'm not doing it myself. My wife will even vouch. She'll speak. Problem is people can't even control their own households. Their children are running around like lawless animals. There's no stability in their household. It's all it's chaos. And meanwhile, you have these men wanting to do things for God's kingdom, or these women wanting to do things for God's kingdom, and they don't have their house in order. It's good to get out and do things, but you better work on your relationship too. Of course, those who love their spouses and their wives and husbands or children more than me is not worthy to follow me. That means that, you love it so much that you won't follow the ways of God. Or even leave to go do the work of God. But you should have your house in order. I'm not going to go travel anywhere if my house wasn't in order. I wouldn't be preaching if my house wasn't in order. I wouldn't be leading anybody if my house wasn't in order. I'm speaking this to some people. People think that, they look at me like, well, his life was perfect. It really wasn't. I know what it's like to have money. I know what it's like not to have money. I've seen both sides. And I'm grateful to God that I can speak to both sides, and God has shown me the wisdom. It's not me, guys. I'm so thankful for everything I've gone through, because I know I can help restore marriages. I can help restore children's and brokenness in people's homes. And, if people just only listen and submit to God. Look, I love you all, and I pray for you all. I care for you all a lot, and that's why I'm here taking my time to do this again. Message round 2 for today. So, yeah, I understand. It's very hard when somebody's rejecting the word, but, you got to keep continuing to serve God and be gentle, be loving. That's it. Again, guys, I don't know what everybody's situation is, and I'm sympathetic for each one, and I'm not speaking as a whole for every single one. Each marriage is different. Each relationship has different issues. I may not know. So please don't just hear everything that I'm saying and think that I'm categorizing everyone into one's thing. I'm just trying to tell you what can bring freedom, what can bring healing, what can bring help. I'm trying to bring you to that place, especially before Passover. It starts with us, guys. So I'm trying to, help you out. That's it. And it's up to us to choose. But I love you all. God bless you all. And, take time with God. The best way to get your household in order is obey Him. That's it. That's it. Walk by faith. That's what a marriage does. It teaches us to submit to God and submit to our spouses. It teaches us to love others and even our kids, even in their weaknesses, even in their strengths. We lead our kids. We guide our kids. We lead our households. We, submit to one another. That's what it's about. It's getting through all trials, all tribulations, all situations, working out the kinks that are in us, the things that we need to change, things that we need to sanctify, the things that we need to die to ourselves, and things that need to live. It teaches us how to love God and love our spouse. That's why Adam and Eve were here. It wasn't just to have a companion. And there's so many people that are seeking a marriage because I want a companion. Now what you need is God. Stop seeking. We don't know how long Adam walked before he actually, alone with God, before he actually had a spouse. Same way, endure that time in the garden with him at peace. You don't know what he might bring for you. But if you are seeking all the time, God, bring me a spouse, bring me a spouse, guess what's going to happen? You're going to be heaped up with a false preacher that believes they have wisdom and, of how to lead a family, of how to lead a godly marriage, and they're going to lead you into a dead one. And I'm going to tell you, most marriages, I see a lot of these country club style churches, the ones that love to make their marriage look perfect. They have married a man or a woman that they met in the church. Christians. And guess what happens? Majority of those end up in divorce. I've witnessed many times. Many, many, many times. Why? Because the most people in the church, it's a hospital for the sick. It's not a place to get well. The people going to church are the sick. You'd be like, no, I go to church. Because you're most likely sick. You're relying in your church, and you're going to hear what I'm saying and still go to your church. Because you're wanting emotionalism without actually heeding what is being said and submit to God so that he may heal you. That's it. But I love you guys. And that's all I have to say. Oh, you're welcome, Priscilla. I love you all, and God bless you all. I hope this is helping somebody and will help in your future. Again, I'm understanding each one of y'all's situations, and you're merciful there and compassionate to understand that everybody's situations are different. But there's nothing God can't change, but it starts with us. But I love you all. Shalom and God bless you.